Number 1. I want to start this story by saying that I was 22 at the time. I'm male and I'm 24 now, so this happened 2 years ago. I was in uni studying mechanics, and as much as I'd like to tell you that my student loan covered the cost of living as well as my party lifestyle, it just didn't. One of my mates, who had ditched the idea of uni, was working with a well-known delivery company. He'd heard me moaning about not having enough money one too many times, so he cleared it with his boss that he could hire me. I would ride along with him and deliver the packages, and he'd give me a cut. Eventually, the company hired me on a part-time basis to be a driver. I enjoyed the job. The people were nice 99% of the time, and it was nice to drive around and see areas that I wouldn't have normally seen in my blurry weekend state. Every so often you got an awkward customer, but it was part of the job. Sometimes they were a bit weird. Sometimes they were just lonely and wanted someone to talk to. In my job, I learned how to be polite without becoming their friend. It was important because I couldn't be late delivering to the next person. It didn't help that I was still studying and going to uni at the same time either. I was exhausted, which meant I could be a bit cranky, but who wouldn't be like that though, right? It was Saturday when it happened, I remember. I was delivering to town centre for a change, and it was around midday. Most of the deliveries are to flats, and I steeled myself for people not answering their door. It always happened when I got this round, and I was prepared. The first couple I delivered to fine. Nice, normal people who just wanted their stuff so they could leave and spend their Saturday doing something more meaningful than waiting inside. The fourth person, though, was odd from the start. When she answered the door, her hair was matted and it looked like she had been crying. Her fingernails were dirty when she signed for the package, and she kept licking her lips. To divert slightly, do you guys use Facebook? I don't know if this post would have appeared on your feed, but it did on mine. A couple of times. Apparently, if you draw a black dot on the palm of your hand, you are being abused and are in danger. It's a way of silently getting help without your partner finding out. And as I was saying goodbye, she pointed to her palm, and there was a black dot. Her eyes looked frantic, and I knew in that moment I had to phone the police. While I did, I made small talk with her, asking questions like, "Have you got any plans for today?" General chatter just while I waited for the police to answer. Eventually they did, and I said goodbye to the woman. While I was getting back in my truck, I explained what had happened and that this woman needed help. The dispatcher was great and said an officer would be out there as soon as possible to investigate and help the woman. I waited around until they arrived, ate a sandwich, checked my phone. I pretended that I was on my break. I watched as they entered the flat and eventually came out with a guy in handcuffs. The woman followed shortly after. She had a big cut on her forehead, like someone had bashed her against the wall. She was crying loudly, talking to the female officer who was holding on to her. She kind of looked at me, silently, nodding. I didn't hear anything after that. When I phoned, I didn't give my details initially. I couldn't be a witness to anything either because all I did was answer the call for help. I did phone and ask once, and they said that the court date had been scheduled and they were hoping that the woman would testify. I stopped working for the delivery company after that. My life was just becoming too busy, what with uni and a new girlfriend, and I couldn't keep up with their demands and their constant change of hours. It didn't suit my life anymore, which was fine. I thought once I left, that would be it, and eventually I forgot all about the woman and that day. About half a year after the incident, a package arrived on my doorstep. I hadn't ordered anything but figured my girlfriend might have. I brought it inside and opened it up. There was no name on it, just the address. Inside was a piece of paper with a black dot scribbled on it. I felt my stomach do a flip, but figured it was someone playing a practical joke on me. Maybe from the company. I had revelled in my hero status, so it wasn't like the guys didn't know about it. After that, more packages turned up. At one point, after going away for a weekend, there were 5 waiting for me on my porch. I opened them. All the same bullshit. Piece of paper, black spot scribbled in the middle. Some of them were crumpled, some of them were dirty. However, in the last one I opened, there was a photo. It was grainy, shitty quality, but you could clearly tell what it was. It was a poor woman, laying on the floor, liquid, I assumed, pooling underneath her. Again, I assumed this was blood. I phoned the police straight away and explained what had happened. They came, took a statement and the photo and left. The next few days are a whirlwind of me asking, what the fuck? And why did this have to happen to me? I just hoped that the woman was okay in all of this. It turned out she was fine. They questioned her, trying to find out how she knew where I lived, but she wouldn't cooperate, and eventually she stopped responding to them. They couldn't prove it was her who sent the photo initially either, so the case went cold. I eventually moved in with my girlfriend 50 miles away, and I haven't heard anything from them since. I did phone again, but nothing. Every time I receive a package now, I have to take a breath before I open it. Who knows what it could be? Number 2. I'm a woman in my 60s, and I've always found it easy to trust people. Some people, like my grandson, told me I was silly, but I just couldn't be like them. I would never get anywhere in this world if I didn't trust the people around me. I didn't want to live in that world either, when no one knew their neighbour, or no one would help one another out. My grandson wanted me to share this story though. He's helped me upload it as a warning to other people, to let them know of my experience, and to possibly not be as trusting as me. He didn't put it that way, but I knew that's what he meant. Before my 65th birthday, I had a major operation on my hip and part of my leg. A lifetime of walking and general bits and bobs had just taken its toll. On top of that, I had a fall in the snow and broke it while I was walking to the shops one day. I didn't really want to admit that I was getting older and might want to think about slowing down, but isn't everyone like that? I had dabbled in the use of computers before, sort of. My grandson had taught me how to use them for the most part, but while I was bedbound, I needed it to perform the most basic tasks. Shopping, finding out what was going on in the world, and even as company when no one was available to visit. My husband died a long time ago from cancer, and although a lot of my life was empty without him, and still is, there was always something that I could give my attention to. I'm retired, but my garden is always in need of something, and my neighbours always wanting help. I enjoyed my life, and still do, and I have a lot to be thankful for. But the computer, apparently according to my grandson, was a way of talking to people and making new friends. I had tried, but didn't really get anywhere, and frankly, I wasn't really into the idea anyway. Real life is far more interesting, and as nice as it would be to have a friend in Saudi Arabia, when would I ever find the time to sit with them and have tea and biscuits? However, in my time after the operation, I had to return to the online world. I did a bit of shopping here and there, read the news, but that was about it. After a week or so, my grandson sent me an email to a link with an eBay page. It was something he was buying for me as a present, and wanted to make sure I was happy with it. I was, of course, and I was even more excited to discover eBay. What a thrill! There was literally anything I could ever want on there. I asked my grandson's help in setting it all up, and of course he agreed. He was so happy to see his grandma using the computer of her own free will for once in her life. I spent hours browsing and bidding on little presents I wanted to buy for my friends and family. My grandson came round a couple of times and made a joke about how addicted I was becoming. But he was happy for me and helped me leave feedback and arrange for things to be delivered to me whilst chatting around tea and biscuits, of course. Lots of deliveries turned up after that, and I got to know the local delivery people. They were all friendly and asked me how I was getting on. I offered them bottles of water, as I knew how tired they must have been. Most accepted happily, some not so much. I didn't take offence. I had learnt from my grandson how untrusting people could be. Nothing comes without a price, he liked to tell me, almost every time he visited. He didn't realise how much he sounded like his grandfather. However, one day a couple turned up at my door with the package. I hadn't ever seen them before, but that didn't surprise me. I was sure that they always changed their people from what the other drivers had said, and I always knew that they were moving on. The package was rather large, so he offered to bring it inside for me. I thanked him and pointed him to the back of the house near the kitchen. I couldn't do any heavy lifting after my operation, so I was grateful for him. He smiled and took it through while I chatted to his wife. It was just general things like, how are you finding the weather, and she asked me how my operation went. Her husband returned shortly with a smile and joined the conversation, asking how I'd been doing. I'm really sorry to be a bother, the wife said, but would it be possible for me to use your loo? I haven't had a chance to go since 5 a.m. this morning. I'm bursting. She laughed. I never expected them to do what they did, and I never even suspected them. I never thought anything bad would happen. Surely that's only for the news and those famous people. I pointed her to the bathroom while I stood chatting with her husband, asking if they had children and how long they'd been together. It was a normal conversation, completely, and they never acted malicious in any way. Eventually, she returned, and after giving them some bottles of water, I bid them farewell. I thought to myself how nice they were, and went back into my living room to check on my eBay activity for the day. Only my computer wasn't there. I looked around thinking I had put it somewhere else, but it was nowhere to be seen. I then noticed my mobile phone was gone, along with some pieces of jewellery. I kept them there for special occasions, because some my husband had given me all those years ago before he passed. I burst into tears and immediately phoned my grandson. I explained what had happened, and he came straight over with the police, and they took my statements and information about the missing items. They arrested the couple later that day and found everything but a necklace, which the police believe they sold as soon as they left my house. I was destroyed. How could they have come into my home and steal from me like that? But worse still, how could these people have preyed on a woman who they could clearly see trusted people and had just been through quite an ordeal? I haven't felt safe since, but my grandson told me that I shouldn't feel bad. At least I wasn't hurt, and they got most of my things back. It was the little things that we have to be thankful for, he reminded me. He really does sound like his grandfather. I haven't looked at my computer since then and have quit the online world for good now. Apart from the story, of course, which I'm assuming will end up on the internet at some point. I just hope my story helps someone out there who might be in the same situation as me, because I certainly wouldn't want this to happen to anyone else. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed these stories today, and do feel free to leave some in the comments or email them to me. My info is all in the down bar, and you can definitely send me some things. I am dying to read you guys' stories. I hope you enjoyed these too. They were both originals that I wrote, so I really do hope that you enjoyed them. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below for me or send me an email. I will always pick them up and I will always respond to your comments. Alright, well, I hope you have a lovely evening and speak to you later.